Hello out there, my name is Amy, and I'm a second-year master's student in linguistics at Eastern Michigan University. Today I'm going to talk to you about what bullying means and meant to me as a young gay teen. I will also talk about why this issue is important to address and what we can do to eliminate LGBT bullying and harassment. To begin with, I remember reading statistics when I was younger and feeling like the ones about bullying LGBT students sometimes depersonalized the experience of being young and gay and feeling alone. That they didn't voice my extreme loneliness and my feelings of inadequacy as a young gay woman. Now, as I read or hear them and reflect on my own experiences, I feel astounded at the impact bullying has on gay and transgender youth. The thing is, even though bullying affects the people who are being bullied, it also affects all of us. Because bullying isn't just an attack on one person, but it's an attack on a whole group of people. People who are just like everybody else, who breathe, who laugh, who cry, who sweat, who bleed. People who may differ only in that their sexual identity or gender expression does not correspond to society's expectations. It is unfortunate, these expectations, because they often don't correspond to reality. A reality where we are each unique and different. So let me tell you about my uniqueness, about my difference. I transferred to a private school in the 8th grade, and I thought I was sneaky. I desperately wanted to fit in, and since people constantly threw around the word gay in a derogatory sense, I thought one day I would ask who actually was gay. My line of thinking was that if I asked it in a tone that sounded like I just wanted to make fun of the gay kids at school too, that the other students wouldn't figure out I was gay. And then I could make friends with the gay kids, and we could form an alliance. That plan didn't work out so well. My asking signaled an interest, and then snowballed into a series of teasing and name-calling against me. I remember one day in particular. It was outside during our lunch break. A couple of kids started circling me and calling me all sorts of names and asking if I was gay. Finally, I told them I was, and that I didn't care what they said about me. The bell eventually rang, but the teasing didn't stop. And I lied. I did care. I cared a lot, and it hurt me so much every time I was sitting alone by myself in the middle of our grade's lunch table with one group of kids on one side of me and another group of kids on the other. Remarks would fly by every once in a while. It was a lonely semester. As the year progressed, I became more depressed and even suicidal. The American Association of Suicidology reports that suicide rates among 10 to 14-year-olds have jumped more than 50% over the last 3 decades. Feeling like life was out of control and that I had no one to turn to, I turned more and more into myself. The kids at school didn't understand, and I felt like no one liked me. Rather, I felt that they even hated me. I was 12 years old when I overdosed. If, as the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network says, that LGBT youth may be more likely to think about and attempt suicide than heterosexual teens, is true, then my story is not out of the ordinary. The American Association of Suicidology also reports that suicide remains among the leading cause of death of children under 14. I was 12 years old when I attempted. I was in middle school, like some of you may be. Take a look at your fellow classmates. If you haven't thought about it, perhaps some of your peers have, and that is astonishingly scary. As a survivor of 2 suicide attempts, I am deeply saddened by this statistic. What can we do to curb bullying? How can we give hope to young people who are considering suicide? For me, I found that increasing awareness was the biggest component in defeating discrimination in my school. I started our school's first Gay-Straight Alliance when I was a sophomore in high school. I became active in other clubs and organizations as well, which made me feel included. But how did I get to that point anyway? To not be afraid, to be proud of who I was? Well, let me just say it wasn't easy those first couple of years after my experience at the private school. When I left there, someone close to me told me to keep on the down low. What I knew they were telling me was to be silent about being gay. And I did. For my first year in high school, I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't even have one friend. Again, I turned into myself, but instead of being destructive, I journaled almost daily and began reading books on being gay or transgender. I realized then that there was a world out there, beyond my middle school and high school, beyond the stark reality of discrimination. The books I read gave me hope. Not only did they let me know I wasn't alone in this, but they encouraged me to develop my own voice. And so it came to be that my sophomore year, I wasn't happy with keeping on the down low about who I was. I had to use my voice. And when I did, it was a little shaky, but it was worth all the while. Because when I used my voice and asked what my teacher thought about having a gay-straight alliance at our school, I was surprised when she smiled and continuously helped me throughout the process. As I returned to the question of what we can do to curb bullying, I also cannot help but recall memories of my last year in high school. We had an organization come to our school to address bullying and gossip and to encourage acceptance among our peers. During the workshop, we had the opportunity to hear our classmates' stories about feeling out of place, feeling depressed, feeling lonely. I remember talking to a girl who was considered popular in our school, and she cried in front of me about how hard it was to grow up trying to be perfect. I realized then that whether we're gay or straight, transgender or not, we're all human and we all hurt. We all have expectations that are hard to meet. If we want to stop bullying, then we need to recognize that society's expectations are not always going to match how each of us feels or who each of us are. We need to recognize that the person we are about to bully is an individual with just as much human rights as we have, and that their pursuit of happiness is equally important as ours. If you have been teased or harassed, there are people out there who care about your well-being and safety. It's okay to speak up. Talk to a trusted teacher or counselor. There are many resources available, and you don't have to suffer alone. When you find that support and are feeling more in control, get involved. It can be as simple as joining a club or creating your own. To conclude, bullying affects us all. It is a problem that society needs to address. But on an individual level, there are things we can do. We can refrain from teasing the gay boy in our French class. We can leave the girl who has a masculine appearance in our math class alone. We can stop trying to make people behave in a certain way. And when we make room for we can make room for acceptance of others. To those of you who have been bullied because of your perceived or actual sexual orientation or gender, do realize you are not alone. We hear you, and we sympathize. Just as the problem of bullying affects us all, so do the resolutions that are here now and are soon to come. Thank you.